Acharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Bhadram Karnebhihi Shunuyam Devaah Bhadram Pashyema Akshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangaistushtivagum Sastanubhi Vishema Devahitanyadayuh Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedah Swasti nastarksho Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspatirdadhatu Om Shanti 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryamkaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mantra number 6 that we are in the middle of tackling, of explaining. Esha Sarveshwara, Esha Sarvagyaha, Esho Antaryami, Esha Yonihi, Sarvasya Prabhavabhyayo hi Bhutanam. So this is the second of the two verses about Pragyaha. Pragyaha here means a Vyashti Abhimani in the Sushupti Avastha. So that's, you know that by now. So what we were looking at is that if there is a creation at the Paramarthika level, then it must be both Nimitta Upadana Karanam and Nimitta Karanam and Upadana Karanam. So both the material cause as well as the intelligent cause. So in the case of Parameshwara, the creator of the entire creation, there is no question of the Parameshwara making a mistake for being a limited person. So a limited person means a Vyashti Jantu. So it's not possible because it knows, it is kind of like electricity knows that I cannot be just one appliance. An appliance is a limited person. So it has some limited capability of reflecting the light. And the light knows it that this is one of my glories. I can be one of the appliances. But it never makes the mistake that I am only that particular appliance. Okay? So at the Paramarthika level, it must be Abhinna Nimitta Karanam. It must be both the same material as well as the intelligent cause. And this I think we will see more and more clearly as we go along, that really speaking, the creation is that of a steady light which seems to be dispersed into many specific areas. Never does. Never does. It is always the electricity, it never really gets dispersed. But the only way to have creation is to have a dispersed application of the electricity. This is the only way to have the creation. Here, the only thing that we have to prove, and we will do that later on, is that in the case of electricity, the appliance is not the upadana karanam of electricity. Electricity may be the intelligent cause, but it is not the material cause of everything. Whereas in the case of Paramarthika Satyam, both the intelligent and the material cause is the same. Okay? Okay, so this is at the Paramarthika level. Now, it is very possible that at the lower level, which is Vyavaharika Satyam, you could have a distinction between the intelligent cause and the material cause. And so this is exactly what happens. We find that in our experience, there is a pot maker that makes a pot, but the pot stays separately from the pot maker. And when the pot gets destroyed, it doesn't go back into the pot maker. All this is possible in the case of a Vyavaharika Satta, reflected as the Jiva does. So the Vyashti means that I have the capability of separating myself from the things that I create as a Vyashti Karta. Because when I become a pot maker, I am a Vyashti Karta. And the pot becomes a Vyashti Vastu. And the Vyashti Vastu, limited thing, can be separated from the limited creator. So that's very possible. But what we have to see is, so there is a possibility that exists for a limited being. But in reality, that is simply a kind of a sort of a dream experience. Because again, we have to go back to, we draw from the dream. In the dream, it is very possible that as a dream karta, I am separate from a dream vastu. Right? Inside the dream, so just look at this as an example. Inside the dream, I, as an intelligent cause, this happens. In the dream, you can say that I make a pot. I make some kind of a clay pot, and somebody kicks it and destroys it. And we have an argument. Why did you do that? I took a lot of time to make that pot. And stuff like that can happen. But there, the dream pot maker and the dream pot can be different. But now viewed from the Paramarthika Sat of the dream, both the dream character and the dream pot are the same. You cannot have a difference. You see? That's the thing. So therefore now we see, really speaking, at the Vyavaharika level, when I make something, it is because of my mistaken identity. I am really not separate from what I create. As we understand this fact more and more clearly, you will find that I also at the samashti level, where pragya gets very close to Ishvara in it's the way it is, I become the abhinna nimitta upadana karana. So here, the key thing to remember in all these details, that the way the creation is done, which is there's no real creation. It is always a make-believe creation. Like a dream is a make-believe creation. So the entire thing is also nothing but a make-believe creation. But the way this make-believe creation is done by Ishvara is exactly the same way where I do my make-believe creation. And we will see this is exactly the idea about the Ekajivavada. Ekajivavada means that, really speaking, it appears to be different. The whole ocean appears to be different from the wave, but it is really just one thing. Okay, the wave is the whole, this is the entire creation, is the entire ocean. So in this Ekajivavada, which by the way is also called Drishti Srishti. So this is also an important thing to, and I think I've talked about this before, but let me repeat it now, and I will bring it up again as a congruent part of Ekajivavada, which is, believe it or not, what we see is the creation. My seeing the creation is the creation. This is what is called Drishti Shrishti Vada. The opposite to that is there is a Shrishti Drishti Vada, where there is already a Srishti, and I am just part of it. And that is not true. So one can argue that maybe the dream is the Drishti Srishti Vada, but the Jagrita Avastha, the waking state, must be the Srishti Drishti Vada. It is already be there. This is the funny part that we are going to really tackle a little bit more later on. We're not quite ready to take on this heavyweight fight. But we might as well know that in the Ekajivavada, in the vision of a single jiva, there is no such thing as a Srishti already there and I become a small part of it. It happens, but it is a mistake. That is a mistake on my part. Actually, the whole thing is done for me. Believe it or not, for everyone. Me means not personally for me, but for each one of us. So this, hold it in your pocket. So what that means is, just like in the dream, all the vasanas trigger your creation. The same thing is true for the Jagrita Avastha. That all the previous vasanas of millions of lives that I have taken all band together to create this Srishti for me. So the whole thing is nothing but, it's just software. There is no hardware at all. The hardware is also part of software. How? We have to learn from the example of the dream, which we will do. Last time one of the students had asked about how to analyze the dream, and I had given a couple of points to that. But really speaking, the whole Karika is based on that. So we have a lot more to do later on, and we will reserve the way of analyzing the dream and applying it to our life. This is what Karika is all about. So there we see that the whole thing is nothing but drishti, eva shrishti. Whatever my vision is, this is what I make my world to be. And Swami Akhandananda will again and again emphasize the whole thing depends on you. And I remember Swami Dayananda, I think I already mentioned this to you, that I didn't understand this statement by Swami Dayanandji, but he meant exactly the same thing. What he used to say, and I think you'll see that statements and somewhere in the teaching from time to time, is that you are the problem, you are the solution. Very beautiful statement. Swami Dayanandji had a great way of expressing things which make a very simple statement and yet makes it very profound. Like an example, he says, we don't say there is one God or many gods. We say there is only God. The whole thing is nothing but God. Very beautiful statement. So he used to say, you are the problem, you are the solution. And that is what it means is, it is your drishti, which is the shrishti, and you can change it. Swami Akhandananda takes this up quite frequently, as in Bhagavad Gita also, that your mind can be your best friend and your mind can be your worst enemy. Absolutely the same point. And what it means is, you have a complete freedom in altering your mind and looking at the whole so-called Srishti in a completely different way. So our classical example of a room space just means that the room space has complete freedom in becoming total space. It just has to give up the I-ness and the minus, my-ness. And that we will take it up later on. Anyway, so here in the teaching of the Ekajiva Vada, it is emphasized over and over again to be sensitive to the truth about the similarity between Jiva and Ishvara. This is a good, interesting point, really. You know, we say that the role, the goal, not sorry, the role, but the goal of moksha, of complete freedom in life, as Vedanta says, is to discover the aikyam between Jiva and Ishvara, Jiveshvara aikyam, Tattvamasi. Is what it is. And now the question is, when is that going to happen? When will I understand Tattvamasi? Because right now I don't. So the question is, when is that going to happen? How is it going to happen? What do I need to do? These are the questions that come in my mind. One of the things to consider on this, and I think Swami Maheshananda put this very well in his writings. He said, you know, a sense of self-satisfaction is really what we are all seeking. A sense of, I'm okay, there's nothing I need to do, I'm done. So this is what moksha is all about. The self-satisfaction is a little bit like uh, eating when you are very, very hungry. So you are starving for food, you haven't had it for several hours, and you want tripti. Tripti means a complete self satisfaction. So you want to be full. You don't want to, after that, people say, can you have some more? And says, no, that's it, I'm done. So this gap between total hunger and total satisfaction, how does it occur? When does it occur? Does it occur suddenly? At one moment you are starving, and another moment you are tripta? No. Then what you do is you start to eat. And as you continue to eat the food, your sense of hunger decreases and your sense of tripti increases. There comes a point where you don't want anything more. You must have heard this. This reminds me, I have to tell you this anecdote from Swami Dayananda. You must have all heard it, but let me remind you. This is called Sapta Nyaya. So the story goes, there was this guy who was very hungry and he didn't have a lot of money. He was kind of like, he had he was a poor guy. So he goes to this place uh, and they have idli, dosa, vadas. And so he says, how big are your vadas? He says, we have pretty big. He showed it to him. As normally the vadas can be small, but this one was quite big, like a donut. So he says, will it satisfy my hunger? So he said, sir, it all depends on how hungry you are. How much does it cost? He says, 1 rupee per vada. Okay, I'll give it to you. And when when I'm satisfied, I'll give it to you. He says, okay, sir. So he got 1 vada. His hunger was not gone. He got a second vada. Got 7 of them. On the 7th one, he says, I'm done. And so he says, how much do I pay you? So the person said, 7 rupees, sir. He says, wait a second. I was only satisfied on the 7th one. So I'm only going to pay you 1. The other ones really didn't satisfy me. So what the saying is, and the whole thing I'm making it up, is because really is an important thing for us to see. That if I am going to look for an identity with Ishvara, which is what the goal is, and the only way to do that is to give up my own sense of limitation, which I'm not ready to do that yet. I don't know how to do it, and if I did also, I am concerned, scared, whatever it is, uncertain. I have Shraddha in you, but I don't know. So I can't give up my sense of limitation. But I want Ishvara. Now, given this situation, how is that going to happen? Tell me. It's exactly like the Saptavada Nyaya. That I am only going to be happy if I am completely satisfied. What you have to do is to take small steps. Step after step after step. And observe how you are after each step. This is exactly what we are doing when we said Prathama Padaha, Dvitiya Padaha, Tritiya Padaha. Exactly, I'm telling you. This is what it is. These are steps. And at each step, you discover some identity. We'll go into more into that today also later on. And as you do, then several things happen. One is that you are a little less concerned than you were before. Secondly, probably more importantly, your shraddha that you are going in the right direction increases. It's like when you start eating, and the first few things that you eat, you feel good, and you feel this is, I know from experience, by eating really removes my hunger. It's the right thing to do. It's a shraddha. You don't go eat for a little while and say, I'm not completely satisfied, I'm not going to eat anymore. No. All you say is that I got to go on for a little bit longer. I need to have more chapati, more rice, more dal, whatever you are eating. So here also in the Ekajiva Vada, what it does is that as you discover a congruence between Jiva and Ishvara at each step, you feel a little better, not completely yet, because you're not completely there yet. At the same time, you say, yeah, this is working, I should go on. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that as a kind of like a separate concept. All right, let me kind of resume the journey of this particular verse. So here there is a two there is a dual dimension to this journey. Okay. One dimension is to see the identity between Vyashti and Samashti at each step in the Ekajiva Vada. In the Aneka Jiva Vada, you don't do that because you see Vyashti in its full force. You see Samashti in its full force. And then as you start to analyze the constituents of both, at some point in time when you have a mature mind, you are ready to look at the identity. You see the identity at the very end. We've already talked about that. I'm just repeating myself. In the Ekajiva Vada, which is what Swami Akhandananda ji and a lot of other people are espousing, actually Swami the Gaudapadacharya himself. It's not Swami Akhandananda's own creation. But this is the Sampradayic view. He does say that Adi Shankara was more like a Jagat Guru, where he was interested in making sure that the basic principles of Vedanta, even if there are some differences in Prakriya, are all supported. So he gives equal weight to different kind of Prakriyas. But Sri Gaudapadacharya ji, who was his Guru's Guru, didn't have that burden. He was not a Jagat Guru. He was only a Vedantin. So he really went into the very purity of the thought, as opposed to looking at Aneka Jiva Vada and Eka Jiva Vada. It's not as though Adi Shankara didn't understand Eka Jiva Vada. but he deliberately tried to keep the door open for different ways of explaining the same thing. So, two dimensions. One dimension is to see the identity between Vyashti and Samashti at each step. Continue to see that. The other dimension is to see the identity between the various states of experience by a Vyashti. And what do you mean by that? So what it means by that is that these Sthula Sharira Abhimani, which is Vishwa, and the Sukshma Sharira Abhimani, right, which is in the Swapnavastha, and the Sushupti Avastha Abhimani are all the same. Vishwa and Taijasa are the same, and Taijasa and Vishwa together are the same as Pragya. That's the other dimension. And how does this occur? So we can do a little bit of vichara for this. Because the whole thing, really speaking, is to understand how this whole phenomena occurs. Because until this is what is said, and we'll go into more into this today also, that what really brings the goods home is vichara, is thinking. Everything else is secondary. The primary thing is your ability to convince your mind this makes sense. Vicharam na sahate. Avicharita siddham dvaitam. There are so many emphasized. So many ways this is emphasized. So vichara is the important one. So the better we understand the phenomena, the better off we will be. So in the case of the identity between the three states of the same Vyashti, which is Vishwa, Taijasa and Pragya, look what happens. It is the same light, the jnanam, the conscious entity, same jnanam, which says, I am, I know. And this is not limited anywhere. I am and I know. Aham janami, aham asmi. We did that beautiful verse from the Advaita Bhakaranda. Aham asmi sadabhami kadachit naham apriyaha brahmaiva aham atassiddham satchidananda lakshanam. So it is the same jnanam that becomes an identified with the experiencer of a Jagrat Avastha and becomes Vishwa. And it is the same Sakshi that identifies with the Sukshma Sharira and becomes Taijasa. And the same Sakshi that removes all differences and stays as pragya in a seed form. It's the same person. You're not totally different. You're only partially different, but really the same. This is the second dimension. And what you find is that, of course, in the case of samashti, these differences don't even occur at all. So it's not as though Ishvara has a dream and Ishvara has a Jagrat Avastha. No. The whole thing is nothing but a projection, continuous projection. And yes, the whole projection rests in Pralaya, Prakarshena Laya, and then comes up again. Just like the day and the night. But there is no separate Swapna, Jagrat and Sushupti. So this distinction, which starts at the jiva level, starts to coalesce as it moves towards the samashti. So this is the two dimension that finally becomes dimensionless, as we will see in the case of the Atma, which is dimensionless. There is no Atma, no Anatma, no, everything is nothing but this is the whole teaching. We haven't even started that at all. But at the end, it just becomes dimensionless. But in the beginning, you have all these structures to look at. Differences at one level and differences in the other level, 2 dimensions. Okay? So keep that in mind as we move forward. You know, one corollary to this way of looking at it, again, it looks very, very unlikely. You know, there's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita which says, Ascharyavat pashyati ekaschidenam. So Sri Krishna uses the word Ascharya. Ascharya means hard to believe. Hard to believe. It says, yes, my creation is in such a way, Ishvara says in the Bhagavad Gita, that it is very hard to believe. Because I remember, there's so many ways of looking at it. To see a dead person come alive in your dream is hard to believe. Because I was telling you, I know I've had so many dreams that I can share, but yet this one dream where I recall so vividly that there is a doorbell. And as I opened the door, I said, who could it be at this hour? I remember thinking that in my dream. I opened the door, and it was my dad. And my dad was wearing his gray-colored dressing gown, which is only for home use. He doesn't go out in that, but he was very fond of that. And I do the same thing, really. I have a dressing gown. When I get up in the morning and I have not taken a shower yet and it's cold, so I have a pajamas and so on, then I wrap it up with this. It's a cotton, it's not flannel, but it keeps me kind of warm. It has a large pocket and so on, and I just lounge in it quite a bit. So my dad was wearing this dressing gown, and I remember saying, Dad, it's very interesting. I didn't ask him, what are you doing at this hour? I said, why are you wearing this dressing gown? Because if he came to, and it looks like he was visiting me, it was all part of that because that was my reaction. So if he's visiting me, he should not be wearing this dressing gown. This becomes, and I remember this so well, and I woke up from it really in sweat. My God, what a clear picture of my dad. Dead man walking. Incredible. Ascharyavat pashyati enam. So here exactly the same thing. That this fact which is being presented, which I'll present it to you, is hard to believe. It's kind of like the dream. And what it is we think that I am this body, and inside this body I have a mind. And the mind can come and go, body stays. The mind disappears at night, comes back again in the morning. Sometimes it is angry, sometimes it is happy, sometimes it is forgiving, sometimes it has all these changes all happening within me. This is what my thinking is. Acharyas say, will you believe? The mind is not contained within the body. It is the other way around. What? This is exactly like seeing my dad in the dream. The mind is the Antakarana, is the one that creates the whole creation for me. And part of that creation is giving me a body to transact. It is all a body thought. It is also nothing but a thought. Whole thing is nothing but series of thoughts. Believe me, it is not just me saying. As we will see, all the Mahatmas say, you better see this as quickly as you are able to. I know you will resist a lot and say, oh, I don't know about that. Other things I can believe, but this one, I don't know. That doesn't seem like it. This is a solid table. This is a separate table. How is it to be a mind? I don't understand this. So we resisted. And if you have some mokam of Shraddha, where we should all do, so what we will see is that the only way to reach moksha, because if I am the body, I'm in sad shape. Where is the question of moksha? This body is dying. It's disintegrating in front of my eyes. And now I want to have moksha. I want to be free. I want to be free of all problems. Stupidity. And we should start to give up this stupidity as quickly as possible by listening to the wisdom of the Shastras, which will say, my dear, the whole thing is nothing but software. As it is in dream. Again we go back to the dream. Because in the dream also you have tables and you have solid things and you have software, you have people moving and you have threats and you have sukha dukkha and all kinds of things happening, as we will see in our Karika. And there is no real distinction between the dream and the Jagrata Avastha. They're pretty much the same. So start to see the identity between them as rapidly as possible. So here, in the sixth mantra, these words are there. Esha hi sarveshwaraha, Esha antaryami, Esha sarvagyaha, Yonihi sarvasya, Esha yonihi sarvasya. So let's look at those 3 points. Sarveshwaraha, Antaryami and Sarvagyaha. And with respect to those 3 words, let us do some vichara. Okay, we are asked to do some vichara, because that is what is emphasized in Vedanta. Okay. So, and I think the way we should do that is to see it more completely with respect to Ishvara, and then draw from it in terms of the similarity between the Jiva and the Ishvara. So that's the method we are going to follow. So let's take a look at the word Antaryami. Because here the Eshaha means this one. This one is what? Pragya. We're studying the Pragya. But the way we start is to first understand Ishvara, because then the two are very similar. So let's look at Ishvara, Antaryami. So Antaryami means that this entire projection of the world, of the Jagat, of my set of experiences, this entire set, there is an order within it. It is not random. And for those of us that have been studying, especially science and technology and so on and so forth, don't find this hard to believe, of course. So there is an order in which everything seems to happen. Simple examples are that, really speaking, Very fascinating that water always boils at 100 degrees centigrade at sea level. Always. It's not as though sometimes it boils at 50 degrees, sometimes it doesn't boil at 200 degrees. And if there are some small differences, it is because of the height from the sea level. Otherwise, at sea level, all is did that at the time of Rama and Krishna, at the time of Christ, the time of Buddha and Mahavira. Every place, 100 degrees. This is order. Swami Dayanand used to say that even when there appears to be a disorder, there is order. So when, for example, a glass drops and breaks into lots of pieces, so you will say, that's random, there's no order for it. Which one piece goes, where does it fall, etc. It is randomness. Yes, there is order. What is the order? When the glass falls, it depends on what was the height, what was the ingredient of the glass, if it was heavy glass or thin glass, and how far do the pieces go, are all a function of all these parameters. Whether the pieces go completely away or they are stored within 6 to 7 feet of diameter, this is also according to the law. So the amount of some controlled randomness is allowed, but overall there is order. And in fact, the order of the world is also very precise. Very precise. You can measure to a millisecond when the sun will arise given the coordinates of the year. This is why the astronomy and astrology, they can predict things thousands of years from now because they know exactly what is going to happen. So this is the order. Now, isn't there someone who's in charge of all of this? This is called the Antaryami. And the interesting thing is that you don't see the Antaryami, you see the effect of it. You cannot say, okay, this makes sense. Yes, there is an Antaryami, but where is he or she? Where is she sitting down? It's exactly like saying, I see the leaves moving, but I don't see any wind. That's right. You see the leaves moving because there is a wind. You don't see the wind, but you see the effect of it. You should see the presence of the wind when the leaves are moving. Similarly, there is an Antaryami that's sitting behind the creation is regulating it. And the other interesting thing is that even when there is a cessation of the activity, like at night time, it's not as though the Antaryami is taking a rest. The function of the Antaryami is always there, no matter what happens. And in fact, Sarveshwaraha and the Antaryami work together. It's the same person. Sarveshwara means that while there is activity, how it happens What is the effect of it? What will be the fruits if something gets done wrongly? If someone does something bad, to give the fruits of the action on that bad action is also part of Sarveshwara. You cannot escape. It is all under the order. So Sarveshwara and Antaryami and then Sarvajnaha. Sarvajnaha means that it's not as though the Ishvara is only partially intelligent and partially not intelligent. He knows most of them, but not everything. The whole creation is nothing but in his mind. So all three of them apply to Ishvara alone. Now we come to the Vyashti, which is the Jiva, you and I. And through the teaching it says, my goodness, we are exactly the same thing. We know the world that we are experiencing. We know that we go to sleep. We know that we have dream. We are Sarvagyaha. And yes, our viewpoint is that as a limited being. But given that we are a limited being, my Sakshitvam remains intact. So my Sarveshwaratvam and my Sarvagyatvam, Sarva Antaryamitvam, Sarvasya Yonitvam remains the same. So yes, the two are very, very similar. Very, very similar. It's just that, very interestingly enough, this is what is pointed out by our Mahatmas, that we make a huge problem. Huge problem. And that problem is we refuse to give up a very obstinate conclusion in the face of the opposite data. Now, we have talked about this before, and this is a very important thing we're going to pin our teaching. This is called Agraha. And Swami Maheshananji had, I think, given a very beautiful example of this Agraha. He had said, look at your political parties. Now, all people will say, I give my vote in a very rational way. I always think about how I want to vote because I'm God-fearing. I believe in having equality for everything. This is what I want to do. This is what I say. What kind of a person are you? I'm a good person. Okay. And who are you going to vote for? Vote for somebody that has contrary indications. He's not a good candidate. He flouts the law. He goes contrary to my way of looking at things. But you know what? I still vote for him. Well, why do you want to vote for him? I don't know. I just feel, I think this person is doing wrong, but, I don't know. I still vote for him. This is called Agraha. Exactly the same situation is happening. What is that we cling on to this obstinate view that I am just this much body and mind. I am just a jiva. Despite the fact that I want freedom, but I want freedom within the confines of a jiva. It's exactly like saying that the person that I'm voting for, I know is very flawed, but what can I do? I'll just do that. Vedanta says this is such a stupidity. It is unbelievable. In the face of contrary indications that you are not just a limited being, you cling on to it. And when will you listen? It's like a candidate. How bad will this candidate have to be before you vote for the other party? Is he going to? Are you waiting for him to kill about a dozen people before you would say, "Oh, I think that's too much"? What are you waiting for? And so, and the way to convince yourself that this is such a mistake is to hold on to certain facts that you should see for yourself. What are those facts? So this is what is called lakshana. Lakshana means a lakshana of how you should make up your decision in life. This is a lakshana. Lakshana is very simple. Because you can say, I'm okay, I understand that I need to give up my identity with the body and mind, but how? How will I do that? I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to vote for the other party, but help me with some facts. What is the lakshana? So this is what is given. This is very interesting. It says, just hang on to one thing, which is, if something cannot be without the other, if you cannot be independent in your existence without the other thing, then you are that thing. Very simple. If you are a golden bangle, ask yourself, can you be a golden bangle without the gold? Ask yourself, close your eyes and look at it. Because at this moment your agra is that I am just a bangle. I am not gold. Okay, let's look at to see, can you be without the gold? No, because it's very obvious that the shine of the bangle is the shine of the gold. The look of the bangle is the look of the gold. The weight of the bangle is the weight of everything is gold, gold, gold. And yet you're calling yourself as an independent bangle. Similarly here, as a jiva, you have to see, Can I exist without the external air? No. Can I exist without the solid material from outside? No. Can I exist without? Is my space any different from the outside space? No. Is there anything that you can be which you are not borrowing from the outside? Think about it. No. And yet you insist on having a separate identity. You're borrowing the air from the outside, oxygen from outside. You're borrowing the heat from outside. You're borrowing the fluidity that you need in your body from outside. Obviously, the air and everything. Isn't this stupidity? And the way the stupidity manifests itself is that you're so inconsistent with respect to what is you and what is not you. Am I really inconsistent? How? What do you mean? Take some food. Before you eat the food, it is this food. And after you eat the food, it becomes I. And when you eliminate the food, it becomes smelly, it becomes not you. And just a few minutes before you went to the bathroom, it was you. So sometimes you feel it is I, sometimes you feel it is this. You have your own likes and dislikes. You're just showing your inconsistency completely. Is that you? I see. So what am I supposed to do? Well, you can pick one of the two choices, but be consistent. You can say, it always says as this. The food outside is this. The so-called my body is also this. Everything is this, 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 this. If you're consistent, you'll have a better way of reaching the goal. Or you can go in the other direction. Nothing is not you. Everything is you. Whether you take things inside, that's a separate matter. That's a secondary consideration. But you do not look upon anything as being other than you. Which, by the way, is what we have to discover our truth to be, and we will. So, the thing to do is to remove this sense of arbitrary limitation to yourself and say, this is just me. Please give me freedom, but I can't get rid of this self-identity. It ain't going to happen. And the sooner you realize, because you'll be wasting your time all your life. I'm studying Vedanta, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening because of your obstinacy, of this agraha. Okay, this is just me. But make me free. Can't do that. Even Ishvara cannot do that. Ishvara wants to help you, but you have to help yourself. So this is the vichara that is needed for us to make progress between the jiva and Ishvara. And so these steps are the ways to travel to make that happen. So with that, I think we will probably spend maybe, I don't know how much more time, but we are pretty much done with all the 6 mantras of the Mandukya. Mandukya has 12 mantras, so we are halfway done. And the next will come the initial karikas on these 6 mantras. So we will actually revise some of this in the ideas of Swami Gaudapadacharyaji's. And so we will do that next week. So with that, let me close the class today. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamidam Purnamadav Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Very nice to see you all. Attending the class. So don't see any questions per se, but we'll be happy to answer any questions, or you can send it to me by email. I think I've mentioned that to you before, but I haven't seen any, so otherwise I'll just see you next Saturday. Okay, Hari Om.